Tonight, Bernie Sanders reveals his new Medicare for All plan. But just how much will it cost? Plus, close election in Israel, the latest from the ground in Jerusalem. And a look at the new push from Democrats to repeal the president's so-called Muslim ban. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Did the government spy on Donald Trump's presidential campaign? Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. The Attorney General says he does think campaign spying happened leading up to the 2016 election, adding that it's his obligation to look into it.
The comments came during Senate testimony today by Attorney General Barr. White House correspondent Ben Kennedy was following the hearing and joins us now. Ben?
John, Jenna, calling this a big deal. The Attorney General plans to get to the bottom of what originally sparked the Mueller investigation back in July 2016.
I think spying on a political campaign is a big deal.
As a result, he's putting together a team to uncover the origin of the Mueller probe.
So you're not suggesting, though, that spying occurred?
I don't, I guess you could, I think spying did occur. Yes, I think spying did occur.
Attorney General William Barr said the question is whether the spying was adequately predicated. He wants to review if the threshold for initiating a counter-intel probe should be adjusted.
I am not saying that improper surveillance occurred. I'm saying that I am concerned about it and looking into it.
Getting started on going back to the origins of exactly where this all started, because this was an illegal witch hunt.
The 22-month investigation revealed the Trump campaign did not collude with Russia. Despite that, Democrats demand to see the full report, unredacted. Barr said he can't do that, but did promise senators more access to the investigation when it comes to grand jury material.
Have you discussed any specific redactions with the White House?
No.
Now, Barr stopped short in releasing new details about the Mueller investigation, saying that he will not discuss the report until it is released, which should happen sometime next week. Barr said he'll answer more questions from lawmakers next month after the full Mueller report is out. That is the latest outside the White House. Ben Kennedy, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Ben. Well, to the 2020 election front, Democrats are firing opening shots in a new battle over health care.
That's right. Senator and White House hopeful Bernie Sanders is relaunching a new bid for his plan to eliminate private health insurance in favor of a single government plan. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson has more on that plan.
And Abigail, even some of Sanders' 2020 opponents, they stepped out in support of him today.
That's right, John and Jenna. Senator Sanders' new Medicare for All bill quickly is drawing support from his own party and including those 4 other Democrat senators who are also running for president in 2020.
Health care is a human right, not a privilege.
Today's unveiling presents the opening volley in a new fight.
Please do not tell us that this is a rational health care system.
Senator Bernie Sanders' vision, more affordable coverage that lowers the number of uninsured Americans.
Medicare for all is a dream.
But the dream comes at a price. The safety net could prove dangerously expensive. Independent studies estimate that over 10 years, the plan will cost anywhere from $25 to $35 trillion.
Medicare for none.
Majority Leader Mitch McConnell warns it's just the latest in a socialist bonanza.
That price is so steep that even left-leaning analysts are quietly admitting that the tax burden is virtually certain to land on the middle class.
People are suffering.
At the Sanders Liftoff Party, a rival for the presidential nomination.
This has to become the next social safety net. It has to become something that is there for you no matter what.
Kirsten Gillibrand is one of 4 Senate Democrats running for president who back Sanders' idea.
You are creating a not-for-profit public option that is good, high-quality health care now.
While under the plan, some 180 million Americans would lose private health insurance.
all would be covered under a public plan.
I can't imagine how we would pull them off of health care coverage that in most cases they like.
Other Democrats have backed away from Medicare for all.
It could be a possibility in the future.
With even Democrats differing on the health care issue, it is sure to be a main focus of the 2020 election. The White House, meanwhile, has slammed Senator Sanders' plan, saying that they are working on realistic solutions, but have yet to offer up any specifics on what those might look like.
Abigail Robertson reporting on Capitol Hill. Thanks, Abby. Well, Republican strategist John Brabender and our chief political analyst David Brody join us now for more. Thank you guys for being with us. Well, let's start with Attorney General Barr's comments today. He confirmed that there was spying going on the Trump campaign. John, what did you make of his testimony?
Well, I was kind of glad to hear that. I mean, first of all, let's remember, this was all about, did Russia interfere? And now we know that a lot of the things we were hearing that wasn't true about the Trump campaign, I think it's fair to say, how did we get there? And I think what Barr said is, we know that there was surveillance going on. We're not fully sure why, what was the impetus for that. And if we're truly going to find out what happened and what was involvement with Russia, we really need to investigate how that happened. And I think it's a good idea.
David, President Trump talks about a witch hunt. He talks about the deep state. This does seem to play into that.
Yeah, 2 for 2 on deep state, right? Collusion, no collusion. That's number one. And now all of a sudden, remember when Trump said back in the day, and everybody laughed at the time, my wires are tapped at Trump Tower is what he said. You know, who's tapping my wires? Obama's tapping my wires. Well, guess what? He was right. He was right. That's exactly what Barr, in essence, was saying today, that they were spying. That's not the question. The question is, was it warranted? Predicated is what he used, but was it warranted? So once again, Trump seems to be right on some of this stuff. And boy, I tell you what, as much as he gets riddled in the media with criticism, it seems like over time, things just seem to kind of fall in Trump's lap in a pretty effective way.
Gentlemen, maybe a question for both of you. Bernie Sanders today unveiled his Medicare for all plan. Critics call it a higher taxes for all. What's your take?
Well, look, I've been involved in the last 4 presidential races, and so I know political pandering when I see it. I mean, the truth of the matter is, all the Democrats are in the how far left and how much can I spend sweepstake, playing for the most liberal side of the Democrat Party because that's who shows up in primaries. Bernie's now even opposing Bernie. He added long-term care to his last Medicare plan for all. $30 trillion this will cost over the next 10 years. Add to that his free college for all, another $30 trillion. Or, I'm sorry, the Green New Deal is $30 trillion. Free college for all is another like 470 billion over 10 years. And they're all going to pay more taxes to pay for this. I mean, he's going to ruin America by trying to make every promise, and every other Democrat's going along with it. So it's bad care, it's unaffordable care, and it's political pandering at its worst.
Well, yeah, I think he's going to drop the mic at that point. Look, Bernie Sanders calls it Medicare for all. It's tax increases for all is really what it is. How are you going to pay for it? And as I look down the list, there's not much substance there other than some ideas on how they're going to tax, like a 4% tax out of your paycheck. Oh, okay, well, they didn't talk about that. That's kind of buried in the details a little bit. Look, this is a real problem, as John, you were saying, for Democrats. I mean, this makes Trump's road to 2020 a whole lot easier. I mean, it's socialism for all is what it is, and Bernie's leading the way. Look, if you are more liberal on your Medicare for all plan than Canada, that's saying something. And right now, it's more liberal than Canada's plan.
Do you think it's resonating with people, though? Because you hear Medicare for all, and for a lot of people, they say, hey, that doesn't sound so bad.
Well, that's a good point, especially with millennials and that younger generation, which is exactly who Bernie Sanders and AOC and all that crowd is playing to. And so it's contingent upon not just millennials, but all of us as U.S. citizens to make sure we're informed, we understand what's going on. Because, look, Medicare for all sounds like a wonderful all-you-can-eat buffet, but at some point, the bill comes due, and more than the bill comes due, it'll come due in each paycheck after paycheck that you're going through with this Medicare for all, which, by the way, good luck trying to get that passed in a divided country and a divided Congress.
Yeah, John, a strategy question for you. Republicans, they don't have an alternative. How can they fight against this Medicare for all plan?
Well, there's 2 things Republicans have to do. First of all, they have to make it very clear when it comes to health care, what are the things they're always going to guarantee, such as portability, such as pre-existing illnesses, which almost every single Republican legislator and the president do believe despite the Democrats running a lot of ads in 2018 trying to say to the counter. That's number one. Number two, you had mentioned earlier about millennials. I've seen the numbers. They have no reason to believe socialism is bad, such as older Americans understand. They have no understanding of the cost of all this. We can't make it sound like we're just going to give away free health care, free cars, free whatever we want, and that there's no consequences. And so there's a responsibility on the Republican side to explain the disasters that Medicare for All will bring to us.
We only have about 1 minute left, so if both of you could comment, what advice would you give for President Trump going against any one of these many Democratic candidates? David, why don't we start?
Oh, gosh, I don't even know where to begin. Well, I think it depends who the candidate is.
Sure.
And I don't think anybody needs to give Donald Trump advice, honestly. That's the truth. He's a master brander, and he will brand as he goes. I mean, already Bernie's the crazy professor, or whatever he calls him, the nutty professor is what he calls him. So, look, I think Trump has got this handled. The bottom line is that the political prognosticators and the consultants will say, go ahead and talk about the economy, because that's where you're good at. And guess what? Trump will definitely not talk about the economy. He'll do everything else.
We got to hear from our strategists.
Well, look, I do think he's going to say, here's all we accomplished. Why would we ever want to destroy all of this? Why do we want to take all this money out of families? Why do we want to bring them health care that you're going to have to wait forever to see a doctor? And I think he'll destroy them on those issues.
John Brabender and David Brody, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Well, to Israel now, where Benjamin Netanyahu will remain the prime minister. Benny Gantz and his blue and white party conceding the close election today.
I intend to work quickly to establish a stable government. I want to make it clear, it will be a right-wing government, but I intend to be the prime minister of all Israeli citizens, right or left, Jews or non-Jews alike, all Israeli citizens.
And this will mark Netanyahu's 5th term as prime minister.
Well, earlier today, we spoke with author and Israeli resident Joel Rosenberg from Jerusalem, asking him about the mood in Israel as folks there prepare for another Netanyahu term.
Well, first, I think people are stunned, either stunned with excitement. There was very few people that were sure that he was going to win a re-election. In fact, the polls showed that he was behind most of the campaign. The polls certainly showed that he and the Likud party were closing the gap in the final week, but even the exit polls did not indicate that with any assurance that Netanyahu was going to essentially pull a magic trick. They call him a magician, like he pulled a rabbit out of the hat again. Most people didn't see it. Even people who were for him went to bed thinking, I don't know. But there's also a whole swath of the country that it was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. He's here forever. And so it's a mixed and it's a mixed view right now here.
Joel, what does Netanyahu's re-election mean for the United States and also for the Middle East peace process?
Great question. The first thing I would say is that with Prime Minister Netanyahu being re-elected, and again, almost certain to be able to put a coalition together, that's still, we'll see that over the next few weeks, but it means that there's continuity for the Trump team. President Trump knows Netanyahu well. Obviously, the Trump peace team, the architects, Jared Kushner and the rest of the team, they know Netanyahu and his team well. So there'll be continuity, and they'll be very happy about that. They won't have to change their game plan for Benny Gantz or the others who could have come in and been the new leaders here. In terms of how it will actually affect the peace process, look, I'm of the view that the Palestinian leadership under Mahmoud Abbas have absolutely no intention of saying yes to any plan that President Trump puts forward. They will probably read the plan, but I wouldn't even put it past them not to read it. I mean, I'm sure they will, but I'm just saying there's no indication that Abbas and his team are even open at all. So the question remains, does the plan allow for the Gulf state Arab leaders to say, why would the Palestinians reject this plan? It's not perfect, but it's reasonable, it's credible, it's a serious plan. The Palestinians should sit down and negotiate. And if the Palestinians don't, in theory, it could open up an opportunity.
I want to talk to you about believers there in Israel. How do they perceive Netanyahu?
Yeah. Well, there's about 30,000 Messianic Jewish believers in Jesus here in Israel now. There's another 4,000 to 5,000 Arab evangelicals, and then there are, 10,000 or more Christians of various other kinds, mostly evangelicals, living, working, serving in the country in various capacities. You know, it's interesting, Jenna. I think there's quite a divide between how American evangelicals perceive Netanyahu and how believers see him here. I think American evangelicals see the best of Netanyahu, and which is true about him, but he's a complicated man. American evangelicals see him as a statesman, as a visionary, as a strategic thinker who, you know, I don't know who else could have stared down President Obama and taken on and resisted and refuted the Iran nuclear deal, and then gone on to persuade President Trump to scrap that nuclear deal and reimpose economic sanctions, crippling sanctions, on the Iranian regime. That was the right thing to do. Netanyahu resisted President Obama's efforts almost to force Israel to relinquish strategic territory to Israel's to Israel's sworn enemies. So evangelicals see that in Netanyahu, and they like that. Netanyahu's opening diplomatic bridges to China, to Brazil, to India, to the Arab countries. And this is Netanyahu at his best. But local followers of Jesus here see that, but they see other things. They see, for example, that he gives an awful lot of power and money to ultra-Orthodox religious parties that are hostile to Christians, hostile to Messianic Jewish followers of Jesus. I mean, very hostile. That Netanyahu has said very unkind, very harsh things to Arabs here in Israel, Arab citizens we're talking about. Even saying recently that a new law made it clear that only Jews were real citizens of Israel and no one else really was. I shared that deep disappointment with Netanyahu on some of these, including the fact that Netanyahu brought into his political coalition in recent weeks, honestly, and I say this with deep disappointment, because I worked for Netanyahu 19 years ago, but he brought in a party called Otzma Yehudit, Jewish Power, that is a racist, bigoted, anti-Arab, anti-peace party that was really associated with a violent extremist party that was outlawed here 25 years ago. So these are things that have caused Israeli Jewish believers and evangelicals here mostly to vote for center and center-right parties, but not for Bibi. And I will tell you that I was one of them who struggled because I see both sides of Bibi, what he's very, very good at and what he is, and the mistakes that he makes that are very disappointing. And I couldn't bring myself to vote for him this time around, though I respect him. I pray for him. But I guess I'm becoming a little more Israeli than I was when I could only see him from a distance.
Cuts at Homeland Security. Up next, what it means for the immigration crisis on the southern border. It's been a busy week at the Department of Homeland Security. There are many questions tonight about what comes next as new leadership takes over, with a backdrop of a crisis at the southern border. For more on that, we turn now to CBN News national security correspondent Eric Phillips.
Well, Jenna, there has been so much shakeup within the Department of Homeland Security, but the president insists he's not cleaning house. The perceived instability has some worried about the department's effectiveness. Today, I spoke to Hans von Spakovsky with the Heritage Foundation on the future of DHS after Nielsen's exit and the arrival of Kevin McAleenan.
Well, the president has made it very clear that he wants tougher leadership at the Department of Homeland Security. I think that actually will be an encouragement for all of the line officers and line agents, the people down on the border in the Border Patrol and the Customs Service, who want the power and ability to enforce the law and carry out their duties. And, you know, I've spoken in the past to Border Patrol agents, and they were very happy when Trump came into office because they felt like finally they'd be able to do their jobs.
Now, do you think that Kevin McAleenan will have more success implementing some of Trump's directives on the ground than Nielsen was. I mean, they were met with some real resistance even from the courts when it came to trying to implement some of these more, some might say, extreme measures at the border. How much more success do you think McAleenan will have?
I suspect he's going to be more aggressive in pushing, again, the people who are on the line to do as much as they can to push back the illegal aliens coming in and to pick up the many illegal aliens in the country. For example, as you may know, there are 1 million outstanding deportation orders that need to be enforced. So I think he's going to be more aggressive. They still do have the problems of out-of-control, liberal, federal activist judges. But I think the Justice Department, particularly under Barr, is also going to be very aggressive in fighting back against those judges and appealing the wrongful decisions they're issuing.
You got the Deputy Secretary tendering her resignation just yesterday. You've got Nielsen leaving, McAleenan coming in. With all of this sort of shuffle happening within the department, what do you think is doing where public confidence is concerned?
I don't think it's going to hurt public confidence because they look to the president and what he says about this. And he has said the reason he's doing that is he wants tougher leadership at the top of DHS. And look, the polling right now shows that the president is at one of his highest levels. He's higher than Barack Obama ever was in his third term. And I think a lot of that is because the public knows we have a crisis at the border and they want to see our immigration laws enforced. You know, that was a key factor in helping the president get elected.
All right, Hans von Spakovsky, thank you very much for joining us.
Sure, thanks for having me.
And as he steps into his new role at DHS, McAleenan has faced some criticism for his past support of family separations at the border. But the president has reassured the American people that is not a practice that he's looking to bring back. John.
Coming up, the president's controversial travel ban facing a new fight on Capitol Hill.
Well, nearly a year after the Supreme Court upheld the president's travel ban, a coalition of religious and civil rights groups wants it to go away.
They joined together on Capitol Hill to announce what's called the No Ban Act.
We are all here together, Jewish family, Muslim family, and the American family, to say one clear message: no ban.
Their goal, repeal what they call the president's unlawful, un-American travel ban, referencing how it all began.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
The original effort led to chaos and confusion. Ultimately, the Supreme Court's conservative justices agreed that a reworked version fell within President Trump's authority.
President Trump and his supporters may claim it's not about faith, but we've heard this rhetoric and we know better.
The bill's sponsors point out it's still causing pain.
This division for many families has meant that daughters are not able to have a wedding that includes their aunties and grandmothers. It's meant that mothers can't be assured that they can be at the bedside of their dying children.
Candidate Trump was wrong when he called for a Muslim ban.
Although Middle East expert Joel Rosenberg disagreed with Trump's original ban, he says the current version helps keep the country safe.
President Trump, to his credit, course corrected to get it right. The effort to remove those safeguards would be insane. I mean, it's not as though radical Islam has ceased to be or ceased to threaten the United States of America.
So far, the bill, which has 60 co-sponsors, is slated to get a hearing in the House Judiciary Committee this June, but it is unlikely to go anywhere in the Republican-controlled Senate. Well, that is a wrap for tonight's Faith Nation.
Have a great night.